Okay, so this is my first ever video. My name is James. It's nice to meet y'all. I'm sure you guys, whoever's watching this, is wondering why I'm recording in bed. That's pretty much just because this is where the inspiration struck me to record. So it's gonna be a good video. This video is about antinatalism. Why I believe in antinatalism. To me, this is an incredibly important idea that it is wrong. For those who don't know what antinatalism is, should be best described as the idea that it is wrong to bring a child into the world. Okay, like ethically wrong. Why do I believe in antinatalism? For many people, this idea is very foreign to them, and it seems, instinctually wrong. It seems instinctually wrong. I would go so far as to say that it is instinctually wrong because, it's so cold. Because the main goal of life everywhere is to propagate itself until infinity, right? Just keep going, keep propagating itself. So for humans, that is basically the core drive of everything. There is an Oscar Wilde quote, which is, everything is about sex except sex, which is about power. So I basically believe in that. And so all the activities of the world are basically just sublimated sexual desire. And for the average person, basically sexual desire is like what keeps them going. Now, it may not be referred to by them necessarily as sexual desire. They might refer to it instead as starting a family, having a partner, etc. While those things do transcend sexual desire, I would say that they do transcend sexual desire, they're essentially products of sexual desire, right? So, that is why antinatalism sounds so weird to most people. Because life's desire is to propagate itself to infinity. And for most people, sexual desire has a great deal to do with, what is the purpose of their existence. There are auxiliary, things, like people may take up any sort of, people may take up trades. They may dedicate themselves to ideas. But for the average person, I'm going to assert that having a family is like the purpose of their existence. And then thus sexual desire is the purpose of their existence. So the mind basically recoils from the antinatalist perspective, just like from the start. There's no good way to make a argument that will appeal to everybody, because people just naturally resist these ideas, and those who are more stupid or more prone to emotional arguments will not take these ideas very seriously. Just like default, they won't take them seriously. But when you dig into the actual logical arguments for antinatalism, they're quite good. They're quite good. So the greatest one, which should be considered, in my opinion, the foundation of all other antinatalist arguments, is the asymmetry of pain and pleasure, which is an argument that was devised by the South African philosopher David Benatar. Now, the asymmetry of pain and pleasure is very simple. It's just that pain and pleasure don't really exist in similar quantities or intensities. I know that to be true in my own life, and I would say it's true for everybody. So here's just an example, right? Like the Holocaust. The Holocaust, the Civil War, World War I, World War II. All of these horrible events, you could throw in various genocides, right? Armenian genocide, etc. Basically, humans are capable of great harm. And there's only so much you can... I really fucked this part up. What is the asymmetry of pain and pleasure? So, basically, there is more pain in the world than there is pleasure. Right? So, fuck, my hand's cold. Basically, there's more pain in the world than there is pleasure. And there is a greater intensity for pain respective to pleasure. So, what's a good way to convey this? Think about the Holocaust, right? 6 million some Jews killed by gas chambers, executed in other ways. Think of not only the pain of the death of those people, but also the pain which was inflicted, on their family members. It's incredible, right? It's very hard even to fathom the suffering which was inflicted. You can't really do it. That's just one example. If you consider but say you don't really care about this. There are other events which might be more relevant to your own life, which you can consider. Think about the times which you were sick. Think about the times which you may have been hungry. Think about the times you broke up with someone. Think about the times someone rejected you. Think about the times you got a bad grade in that class. Maybe your mom, your dad got cancer. They got sick. Your pet died. Your parents are going to die if they're not dead already. And just 1,000 little discomforts, which may occur on a day-to-day basis. You're too hot. You're too cold. You don't like the way people have been treating you. You don't like the food you're about to eat. Maybe you're having stomach problems. You're dealing with some kind of pain. I have tinnitus. That always bothers me. So they're just 100 little sufferings that we have to undergo every single day. Now, think about the pleasurable things in life. There's probably a great amount of pleasurable things, too. So we can take into account, eating good food, having comfortable clothes to wear, having people treat us well, having a lover, having parents, having a pet who loves us, succeeding at the things we want to succeed at, getting money, getting things. There's a lot of pleasure too, right? But here, for me, is where it gets interesting. Because of the evolutionary nature of the human mind, we run on a hedonic treadmill where we can't ever be satisfied with the things we have. It goes back to our hunter-gatherer ancestors, where we'd have to be constantly looking for berries, constantly looking for a better place to make camp, etc. So even with the nice things we have in life, we take them for granted. We start taking them for granted real quick. And we want the better things. It never really ends. Sounds like my cat wants me. It never really ends. This is why we end up with people who have accumulated billions, hundreds of billions of dollars, more that could be spent by people in many, 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 many lifetimes. And they still want more. The same goes for pain. When we don't experience pain, the fact that we are not experiencing pain just sort of fades into the background. So it just fades into the background. And there's no pleasure experienced from not feeling pain. When your pain finally quits, is it like coming? Is it like eating something good? Best you can feel is relief, which is a good feeling. And actually, the best feeling you could probably have in life is some form of contentment. But that's beside the point. So this is the asymmetry of pain and pleasure. The next thing is the fact that when you bring a person into the world, you are causing pain which didn't have to be caused, right? Because suffering is a necessary characteristic of life. Your child is going to suffer. They could suffer in a number of ways. Their suffering could be comparatively easy, to another person. Or it could be comparatively hard. They could be born with a birth defect. They could have autism. They could have anencephaly, which would cause them to die within hours of birth. You never know what problem your child is going to have. You just never know, at least until we have gene editing technology. But you never know. So you're essentially creating a problem that doesn't have to exist. You're creating a problem that doesn't, creating suffering which doesn't have to exist. Essentially, TLDR, the absence of suffering is good, but the absence of pleasure is just neutral. It's something that wasn't experienced, right? Something that wasn't experienced. But not experiencing suffering is good. So when you bring another person into the world, you're doing harm that doesn't have to be done. Number 3 is the issue of consent. Obviously, your unborn child can't consent. I don't need to say anything else. So those are the 3 reasons why I believe in antinatalism. The asymmetry of pain and pleasure is 1. Number 2 is that you can avoid harm by not bringing someone into this world, and you will always cause harm by bringing someone into this world. And 3 is that the person whom you bring into the world did not consent to be brought into the world.